And the hashtag of the day is Twitter for fashion.
Thank you. I think we are going to start with a video.
We started Twitter with a very simple idea. We started it because we wanted to see it. We loved it. And we kept building it because we wanted to see other people use it.
There's a series of moments. There's no one big moment. And each time I was like, oh, that's happening? Well, that means this other thing might happen. And then who knows what might happen next.
We just never thought it would go this way. And I honestly think that's part of the reason why we succeeded. It's such a simple tool, yet people have done so many amazing things with it.
We're unable. We made them possessive.
Suspect in custody, but nobody inside the perimeter.
You're able to have these multi-directional conversations. You're not just broadcasting, you're there in the middle of it.
I am going to make history here as the first president to live tweet.
I'm using Twitter to send pictures and thoughts from space. And every day, I really enjoy reading your tweets.
There's an incredible leveling of the playing field that gives every voice the ability to echo around the world instantly. And that democratization of content creation and sharing facilitates these connections that we see every day around the world that we would have never seen before. The possibilities and the opportunities afforded by the platform are limitless.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Federico Paterni. So first of all, I think I need to start with some thanks. We are extremely excited to be here today. First of all, it's great to be in Florence. We just heard Giovanni and Lorenzo talking about the city. If you think about Florence, you think about a beautiful city. It's indeed exceptional for Italian standards, I would say. The level of innovation and technological innovation that we can see in this city. From, again, the example of the free Wi-Fi, which is, I can tell you, is not common at all, to the use of social media. Florence has been one of the first cities in Italy to actually leverage social media to have proximity with the people living in the city. So, second kind of thanks is, of course, to LUISAVIAROMA. We heard from Andrea, but I would like to thank also the rest of the team, Nicole and Veronique. There is some sort of like parallelism with Florence. LUISAVIAROMA has been one of the, again, first company online, was mentioned in the late 90s, but definitely one of the first few companies in Italy to leverage social media to develop their business. And actually, with the team in LUISAVIAROMA, we were discussing, well, they invited us first, of course, and we were very excited to be here. But then we asked, okay, so what we need to discuss, what we have to cover. And then after a few question and answer, we decided that the main question we wanted to try to answer today was something easy, like trying to understand where fashion is going. Of course, this is not an easy question to answer, so we asked how much time do we have? Do we have a couple of hours, right? And the feedback was, no, actually you have just 30 minutes. So this is going to be a bit challenging for me. Of course, I work for Twitter, so I'm very good at writing stuff in 140 characters. But we will try to draft an answer to this question in the next half an hour or so. So while doing this, I have a couple of questions for you first. The first one is, who knows who is this lady? Anybody? Nope? Okay. Not even one? Okay, that's okay. So this lady is called Eleanor Lambert. Eleanor Lambert lived in the early 19th century, and exactly in 1943, she was arguably the lady that actually created the first fashion week in New York ever. So this is an interesting story. In the late World War II, of course, they were trying from the US to steal attention from what was the French fashion, which was the leading fashion globally. So this lady had the idea to actually make some events in New York, and that was, in the first few years, were so successful that, again, iconic magazines like Vogue actually started covering what was going to happen, what was happening in the US, and not just in France. And the interesting thing to see is that for the first 2 years, actually, the fashion weeks were not called fashion weeks, were called press weeks. Because indeed, the only channel that they could use to communicate was actually press. There was no other channel, of course. Using press is, of course, great, but was not a type of communication where there was real time, and there was no two-direction, and was really filtered because, of course, there were the editors and the journalists that were filtering the idea and the content to the people. So that was basically where everything started. Let's fast forward 50 years, pretty much. Have you ever seen this image? Some? Okay, that's good. So this is again an iconic image of Naomi Campbell falling during a catwalk of Vivienne Westwood. Well done. I had to study on Wikipedia, but you know, that's good. This is again an iconic image because, first of all, Naomi Campbell doesn't fall too often during runways, and second, Naomi Campbell doesn't laugh that much. So she's laughing, that's good. In the 90s, we have experienced for the first time a transition of the fashion week. There were iconic models. There was, of course, still the press. And people, of course, started consuming content coming from fashion, also from TV. It was hugely present in households worldwide. Let's fast forward again 20 years. That was a picture taken from a couple of years ago. Do you know who is this lady? Everybody should know. That's great. Anna Wintour. So she's an iconic lady again today in the fashion industry. She's attending one of the catwalk again during the fashion week. She looks a bit upset. In the full picture, next to her, 2 seats next to her, is Nicole Kidman, which looks like a lot better than her, so that's probably why she's upset. But the interesting stuff is that she's holding something in her hands. She has a smartphone. So I'm not sure what's in that smartphone. Of course, I like to think that she's checking Twitter, but this is completely a change in how people and how people experience fashion and how brands develop their own brands. So she's there and she's able to immediately testify what she was seeing, her thoughts, and people can see what she was thinking immediately without any filter. So that's absolutely exciting. And this is the transition that we are experiencing now, today, in the last few years, and this is the transition that we are going to experience in the next couple of years. Brands in fashion usually tend to be absolutely secretive about the new collection, the new fashion weeks, their events. What we have seen, for example, with Tommy Hilfiger, is actually they decided strategically to share what's happening. Let me start the Vine. Here we go. To share their new collection before the model was even on the catwalk through Vine. And that's, again, is a huge industry transition, because that means that the brands are understanding that actually immediacy and the ability to share this kind of content in such a direct way is really a new way to reach new people and a new audience. If, of course, this is an example from Tommy Hilfiger, what we are seeing on our platform is that Twitter is indeed the place where people are looking for exceptional content, especially in the fashion industry for backstage content. And again, this is important and an element of evolution of the broader sector. And the same way, similarly to what we have seen with Tommy Hilfiger, now we have like 2 more vines of brands that are sharing their new lines and their new styles in a completely new format. You know, Twitter is 140 characters, but in general is a type of experiencing content which is very fast and in a way ephemeral. And brands and the whole industry is joining this kind of new way to share content through, for example, 6 seconds Vine loops. What we are seeing, again, I don't have too many numbers today, but there are a few slides. On Twitter, because the element of the platform, likely people expect to have instant information on our platform compared to the rest of the internet. One more example, which is this one, is the second slide with Anna Wintour on the right. There is a picture taken of her from Hunter, and on the left there is Barbary with Kate Moss. Look at the left image 1 second. This is actually what appeared on Twitter. Now, I don't know how techy you are, but that's a GIF, so it's something that is in the loop. And basically, that was this tweet went completely viral just because it's completely hypnotizing. This is a completely new way to interact with the audience in very creative way. Last statistic and percentage of the day, I promise, is this one. Today, all of you and all of us can expect to be closer to the action compared to 10 years ago, compared to 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the fashion itself was far from consumer. Today is actually very close. So if we actually discussed a bit about sharing and creating, what about connecting and consuming, which is the second step of the second element of the evolution and transition that we are seeing today happening? Well, there was a time where discussing with someone about something with someone was just talking to a person in front of us. Then the phone allowed us, of course, to have a remote long-distance connection, but we never had, until maybe 10 years ago, a place where we could really express ourselves and have a broader audience. Today, what we are seeing in the industry and in the fashion in general is that the consumer, for the first time, are actually talking and sharing moments and ideas about what's happening. This is the volume of conversation about the fashion weeks, for instance. London, Milan, and Paris. And it's not just about exceptional volume, it's also about the fact that the conversation starts before the event itself. So people are excited. And this is the first time we can actually see these metrics in real. And second, of course, we are seeing a trend that is upwards. These trends will keep going for the next couple of years. It's not something that happened now and is going to stop. Because again, the conversation are going to keep growing. So if this is the conversation happening today, what's about the connection that we have with the subject in the fashion industry? Well, models used to be something far away. When we were talking about Naomi Campbell was not accessible to anybody. It was actually, you could see her, you can hear her just in interview, or you can see on Glossy magazine. That was the access that you had to Naomi Campbell. What happens today? Well, today, every major model has millions of followers on Twitter. All of us, we can know what they are thinking, while they are thinking, and what they are doing. That's a completely new way of access to top models. And of course, they also, for the first time, have the ability to engage with people that they follow. We have models that engage with people. And we have politicians that engage with users. We have even astronauts that reply to tweets of users around the world. And this is again a new level of access and a new level of connection. If this is true for the models, of course, this is also true for all the other major actors in the fashion industry. We have designers, we have, of course, publication, and we have also bloggers. Bloggers is an interesting example because for the first time, the trends are not necessarily set by a third subject, which might be, again, an editor of a publication or something like that, but people can themselves be a trendsetter through blogs, of course, and through social media. So if these first few minutes we try to see what's the major trends of the fashion in general, the next question is what's the role of Twitter? What's the vision of Twitter? How Twitter is going to change to support this change, to support this transformation? So the question is, of course, where is Twitter going? So it is not a super easy, question to answer, but I will start saying that there are three key elements that we are actually going to leverage and we are going to keep leveraging in the next few years, and that makes us unique. The first is, of course, Twitter is live. So if something is happening in the world, around the world, is happening on Twitter. I will check after how many of you have tweeted with the hashtag Firenze Forever, but I'm sure I will find some tweets. We are actually seeing this with dramatic events like what's happening in these days in Paris. So Je suis Charlie was started as a claim against what happened and then grew on Twitter to actually make people closer and express their thoughts. Second element, Twitter is public. Again, any of your tweets, because I hope that you all have Twitter, any of your tweets can be accessible by your followers or people that are just searching for those. So anybody, any of us can have an impact with one of those tweets. And finally is conversational, which is exactly what we were talking about before with the models or with the astronauts. For the first time ever, we have the possibility, and all consumers have the possibility to actually engage with entities, celebrities that before were very, very far away. So in terms of vision, we are going to keep building on all the same blocks that we mentioned so far. We believe that the elements of creating content, sharing content, of course consuming content, and connecting with other subjects are keys and are the basing blocks for the next couple of years. How many of you has actually an account on Twitter? I didn't ask. Okay, whoa. I've seen a lot of words, so thank you for being there. What happens in terms of creation? In the last year or so, we have seen on Twitter we have seen the development of Vine, so the 6 seconds loop, the same that we have seen before used by brands like Burberry or Tommy Hilfiger. We have seen GIF, like the example of Kate Moss. We have seen, of course, the possibility to upload multiple pictures. But in the last few months, and the guys at LUISAVIAROMA, they know very well, few fashion brands and few media partners of Twitter in Italy and worldwide has been allowed to actually use video to develop their own brands. Video is a huge part of any strategy. So far, all of us, we can actually experience a video from LUISAVIAROMA directly on Twitter in a native way. But if we really want to quote our VP of product, Kevin Will, the idea is not to allow just brands to use video, but to allow all the users to actually upload their own video on the platform and to share it with the world. We are very excited about this. It will come in the next couple of months, and we think it's going to be a breakthrough. From a sharing perspective, again, Twitter as you know, we are pretty much 280 million, but there has been development in the last year or so where the audience that is reachable from brands increased dramatically. Thanks to all the people that are actually coming on the platform, even though they are not users. Thanks to, of course, Mopub, which allow brands to reach people around the world through mobile application. And finally, about something called Fabric, which helps app developer to build their own app. If this is shared, the last 2 points are, as we said, consume and connect. So about the consumption piece, we have seen video, but we have seen also audio integrated. We believe that this is our vision for the future. We believe, because Twitter, there are so many tweets on the timeline, that we can bring a better experience to users while showing them what actually happened and all the tweets that they missed that are important. And we believe that we can do a better job in helping new people join the platform. How many, have you ever sent a direct message on Twitter? Some of you, that's good. We think that that's a space of development again to develop in the next year or so on our platform. One last thing, how many of you are like, I would say, business people? How many of you makes money out of the fashion whatever? And some of you? Okay, that's great. So we talked about sharing, we are talking about creating, we are talking about connection, we are talking about consuming, but for any of us, myself included, that makes money in a way or another out of the business, out of the fashion industry, there is one important piece which is at the end of everything, is the fact that brands or designer needs to sell something and consumer or us needs to buy something, right? That's a very important piece. If that doesn't happen, the whole industry is a bit broken. So we believe that in the next few years there will be dramatically change, not just on how people consume and connect, but also in the way people buy stuff. And this is an example of something that we are testing in the US. This is Taylor Swift selling a t-shirt, so something very simple, directly on Twitter. And as you can see, directly on Twitter, there is the ability for the first time to click on buy while people are, walking on their smartphone, selecting the size, selecting their payment method, selecting their shipping, and finally purchasing the stuff. So we believe that this is happening in the next 6 months, in the next year, not just on Twitter. This is an industry trend, and we believe that this is going to change everything. Because it's going to change the way people actually buy products in the fashion industry. And that's it. Thank you again for your time.